Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to try to convince you to dig up your lawn and plant a garden. If you're like me, you've been lucky enough to have a crazy neighbor, one with a wild yard, who stops by your doorstep with armloads of zucchini or homemade salsa that they made from their garden. Now, a lot of times this yard isn't perfectly manicured and it might be frowned upon by their HOA, but that backyard magically makes food, and it does not require tanker loads of chemicals or refrigerated semi-trips across the country or millions of gallons of water. So maybe they're not that weird. In fact, as responsible and hungry residents of a dry western state, you should stop wasting water on a green lawn and use it instead to grow food for your friends, family, and neighbors. Now, gardens have been a staple in cultures throughout the world, including our own, and they've only been disappearing for the last half of the century. They are our roots, and I argue they're our future as well. Now, this is certainly true for myself. I grew up on a small farm in Michigan, and I spent many Saturday mornings picking green beans and cucumbers. And I've had my own gardens for almost 20 years. Most of that time was spent in the deserts of Arizona, where I began to value how much water really is worth and take a closer look at how we're growing food now. Now I will break down for you why an edible landscape is your best option for today, and why it's more responsible and economical than the boring, too perfect lawns of American suburbia. I'll quickly hit the importance of conservation and sustainability, health benefits, and some helpful tips for getting started. To begin with, let's look at some numbers and see if it's all worth it. Fresh water is our most valuable natural resource, and the supply is limited. We use water in every aspect of our lives, and so it's worth protecting. Tim Smedley, reporting for the BBC, writes that water demand globally is projected to increase by 55% between 2000 and 2050. Much of the demand is driven by agriculture, which accounts for 70% of global freshwater use, and food production will need to grow by 69% by 2035 to feed the growing population. That's a lot more water for a lot more people. Now in 2050, I'm going to be in my 70s, but my children will have families and jobs to go to, and I hope that they'll have safe and easy access to clean food and water. And that is exactly what gardens provide. According to Rosalind Creasy, author and longtime creator of edible landscapes, growing food in a home garden typically takes about half the water that industrial agriculture uses to grow the exact same fruits and vegetables. And if you use drip irrigation, even less. And as for that lawn, the EPA estimates that half of all water used in irrigation is wasted through overwatering, evaporation, and runoff. Just getting rid of half your lawn, putting some drip irrigation in those brand new garden beds you made, and using native plants for the rest of your landscaping could drop your outdoor water use by 70 to 80%. That's 90 gallons a day for the average American household. You would need to fill this bucket 18 times to get 90 gallons, so that's a lot of water. So you might save the world by planting a garden, but you can also save your own brain and body. The food you grow in your garden is more nutritious and certainly more delicious than the produce that you can get at the grocery store. All summer long you'll have access to fresh vegetables, and if you begin preserving your food, you can have it all winter long as well. Kim Hayes, in an article for AARP, points out some other interesting benefits, like reducing your risk of dementia by 36%. Gardening is also better than other hobbies at reducing stress and improving mood, and it's a great low-impact aerobic exercise and helps maintain flexibility and joint health even into old age. Most importantly, it gives you a chance to meet your neighbors, practice generosity, and build your community. You get to be that person knocking on the door with armloads of produce and a smile. But you might say, I've never grown anything in my life. I kill houseplants and baby cactus and I have no green thumb. But relax, it's only as complicated as you make it. Like any new skill, it requires time and trial and error and learning from your mistakes to make a success. But the consequences for failure are very low in this case, which is excellent. You can kill a few plants and it doesn't hurt anybody. You just start again, learn a little bit, and go bigger next time. I suggest not doing it alone. it's best to recruit friends, family, or your children, and then get some help. Many local garden centers, greenhouses, and community gardens offer casual classes for beginners, and you can always ask your crazy neighbor for advice. If you have a small space like a patio, balcony, or window box, start with some planting boxes and potting soil. These small spaces are perfect for experimenting. Um, Start with quick growing varieties like radishes or mixed greens or lettuces so you get a quick return on your labor. Or you can go the classic route and start a kitchen herb garden. You can grow your own basil or cilantro or oregano for your own cooking, and it's much fresher than you can get anywhere else. If you have a little more space, like flower beds along your driveway, you can replace flowers and shrubs with equally beautiful but edible tomatoes, squash, peppers, sugar pod peas, whatever you find in the seed aisle. And if you have a neglected corner in your yard, you can devote it to berries, which will happily take up that space for you. Service berries are a low water and native option to Idaho, and blackberries and grapes also grow excellent in southwest Idaho. Finally, if you've got the guts, go ahead and shrink your lawn. Of course, leave enough for entertaining and enjoying the outdoors with your friends and family, but think about using resources wisely to build edible landscapes that you can enjoy all year long. Now, there's going to be increased pressure on our communities as we grow to produce more food locally and using fewer resources. And making the choice to learn the skills now and change your landscape can spark a conversation that can move norms back towards sustainable, small-scale food production. Kitchen and community gardens have been a long tradition in America, especially in places like Idaho, where independence and self-reliance are so highly valued. So let's move back together in the direction of feeding ourselves and each other, and we do that by planting one garden at a time. Thank you.